Welcome to the first in a long series of videos in which I will go over the process of making an open world video game. The end result will most likely not be a fully fledged game, but rather a toolset which you can use to create your game. The main topics I will go over are using world composition to create a large streaming world, creating an automatic landscape material which paints textures according to the slope of the landscape, taking custom meshes and generating LODs for them, and using the procedural foliage generator to create a realistic looking world for your player to roam in. Once the world has been built, I will include tutorials on dialogue systems, quest systems, artificial intelligence, and more. Without further ado, let's begin. The first thing we have to do before creating our landscape is create a landscape material. This is important because once you use world composition to create a tiled landscape, it is really difficult or impossible to change the landscape material. I'll be using version 4.18.1 of Unreal Engine throughout this series, unless an update brings some new amazing feature which will help us. Let's begin by opening up Unreal Engine from the launcher. From here, we'll click on New Project, Third Person, have the starter content, maximum quality, desktop/console, just keep everything at its default settings. And for the name, I'm just going to name this Open World Tutorial. And create. So we're going to start off by doing some mandatory setup. First we'll go to Content, right click, New Folder, and I'm just going to call this Open World. We're going to go to File, create a new level, default, and we will save this in Open World. We'll call this Persistent. In the Open World folder, we're going to create a new folder titled Landscape Materials. Open that up, and we'll create a new material. We'll call this Landscape _master mat. We'll also create an instance of this material, which we'll get into why we're doing that later. Going to create some material functions. Just right click under Materials and Textures, Material Function. We'll call this grass _mf, and duplicate that. Call that rock _mf. Duplicate this one, and we'll call this sand _mf. Now, each of these we're going to plug into this, and again, I'll show you why we're doing that later. So for now, we'll click on this to show the sources panel. Go into the starter content, click on materials, and we're going to want to find 3 already made materials which we'll be using. So we're going to be using grass. Just bring that over here. We can go with basalt. The sandstone works pretty good, so we're just going to use that. Click anywhere, hit Control A, hit Control, click on that to deselect it, and hit Control C so we copy this. We're going to go back into here, click on Open World, Landscape Materials, and Grass. Once you have grass open, click anywhere, hit Control V. That'll just paste all of that in. Drag this over. Drag away from this, and type Make Material Attributes. So, much like in the base material, you have this going to base color, this going to roughness, and this going to the normals. So we're going to set that up exactly the same. Base color, roughness, and normals. So we'll save that, take the material function, and drop it in there. So we'll come back to that once we're done with the rest of these. So we're done with this, we can close it. We're also done with the grass material. So let's open up rock. Exact same process, Control A, click that, copy everything, go to rock, click anywhere, and then paste it. Drag this out, make material attributes, base color, roughness, and normal. Just like the last one. Save that. And now we can close these. Finally, we'll do sand. And it's the exact same process as before. Copy everything in one material, bring it over to this one, and plug in everything. Save that. Close the sand, and we'll select both of these, drag them in here. So we're going to select these and take them over to here, just get them out of the way. And we're going to type in attributes. There we go. Get material attributes, because we don't need the full list of attributes. We just need the three. In fact, we don't even need those. We just need two. We need the base color and the normal map. You can add roughness in there and do the same process I'm going to show you, but for the most part you don't really need it. Just going to take this, hit Control W to duplicate it, plug that in there, and do the same thing over here. Now is where we start creating the ability to blend all of these together. So we're going to create a few lerp nodes. And if you just type in lerp, you don't want to select the first one, just under math, linear interpolate. And we're going to start off by lerping the base color of the grass, put that into B, duplicate this node, lerp the base color of the rock into A, and sand into B, plug this into A. So now we're going in between there. We're going to drag these away from here, and now we need to create a world aligned blend. So with this, I'm going to plug the alpha into there, the lerp between rock and sand. I'm going to create a scalar node, which would just convert to a parameter. You can do this in the material editor by holding down 1 and clicking. That makes a constant expression, and just right click, convert to parameter. Or you can right click, type in scalar, or just SCAL, and that brings up the scalar parameter. Produces the exact same result. We're going to plug this first one into blend sharpness, second into blend bias. Under the parameter name, we'll call this rock sand sharp, and this one rock sand bias. The values for this is 23.15. Value for the bias is negative 8.7. And the reason we're creating the material instance, and the reason why these are parameters, is so you can set them in the material instance and you won't have to recompile shaders, which depending on what type of computer you're using, that can take a little while. we're going to select all of this, hit Control W, and we'll bring this into that. You can rename this Grass Sharp, and this one Grass Bias. The number for the grass sharpness is 21.5, and grass bias is negative 9.3. So now that we have those, we can take this and plug it into the base color. Save this real quick. So you can see it's applying the grass at the top, the sand, and then the rock, and it's blending between them. Right now there's no normal maps and it's very shiny, which we'll take care of that in a sec. So the normal maps are essentially the same setup as here. I'm just going to take all of this, duplicate it down here, and we'll actually be using these same parameters. Sharpness into sharpness, bias into bias, and same thing up here. So it's the exact same. However, instead of the alpha just being under alpha, because we're taking this from the normal maps, I want to hit Control, and this is applicable in any nodes. You can hit Control and drag that and change it around. Do the same thing down here. Take the normal from the grass, plug it in here, normal from rock, and the normal from the sand. Finally, we'll take this, plug it into the normals, and for roughness, we'll just make a new scalar parameter, call that roughness, save this, and now you can see it looks wet. Change the roughness to 1, save that, and now it looks a lot better. One of the cool things about applying the normal map is you actually get these breaks in the different materials. So the sand starts showing up. Instead of just this weird blurriness between them, it actually blends them much better. So you get a much better end result.
This concludes today's episode, and I hope you join me next week for episode 2, where we will start working with world composition. If you want to stay up to date with what I'm doing, make sure you like and subscribe. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below. Have a great week, and I'll see you later.